What does perfect even mean? Is there even such a thing? Ooh, can we switch up all the rules and imagine a utopia?
All right, so starting with BlaBlaCar. Who knows BlaBlaCar? Okay. Who has been a driver? Who has been a passenger? Cool. Okay. So I will go fast on that slide. What we do, we build the go-to place for the go-to marketplace for shared travel. So today we'll be chatting with you about a project we had. Myself, Emmanuel, MVP Data at BlaBlaCar, so I lead the data teams. We do all of the AI projects in the company, except the one we'll be talking about today, which is also why I'm here. So the data teams quickly at BlaBlaCar, we're a group of 50 people. We're organized in 6 different teams that are catered to a specific domain. And they are multidisciplinary teams, so you have data analysts, scientists. They can do everything data related. And here is my new best friend, Simon. So Simon is a senior localization project manager at BlaBlaCar. What's content localization? He'll explain a bit more and in more details than I can do, but essentially every text that you see on the app comes at some point from this guy. He has reviewed it, edited it, discussed with the PM, designer, and so on what should be in there. So we'll go over his journey. One thing that I love is that he's also one of our AI champions. So he's really fostering and developing AI usage in the product team. It was a fantastic opportunity for us to chat today together because there's one part, a bit of more of the strategy and the tech, and there's one part about a real use case, a simple one, but a pretty powerful one. Right, so AI at BlaBlaCar, it's live. It's something we do. We've done it for a long time. It started in 2016, so no LLMs at the time, but still. I like that headline because I find it cool. Do you find it cool? It is cool. Yeah? Okay. So on average, AI systems at BlaBlaCar make 300 decisions per second. So it's something that's in the product. What's interesting is beyond that headline, which is grabbing your attention, I know, there's also a lot of internal productivity tools. And that's for one of them that we'll be chatting today. So I'll start with giving you a few things around, okay, the big projects, what we do at scale, and so on. One is Boost. So if you wonder what Boost is, you can ask Tristan, who was doing the keynote this morning. He came up with the name, so if you wonder about it, you can chat with him. But Boost, essentially, it's a package, a wrapper around all of our smart technologies for passengers and drivers. So everything going into detour, meeting points, pricing, everything related to optimizing the carpool marketplace, Boost, and there's a lot of AI behind it. AI is also doing moderation. We tried to sneak in a talk about that, but there were too many today. So it's saving about 1.5 million per year thanks to that. What we do is that we do content moderation. You see the little icon because we have a pet name for every AI system. So this one's called Sphinx from the ancient Egyptian mythology. So we, as a platform, we do need to moderate. We do need to remove offensive content. We do need to remove things that do not comply with our terms and conditions. And we want to avoid bypass of the platform because that's dangerous for our business and for our users. So a bot is reading all of the messages and deciding if they should be accepted or not. The last big use case is about fraud. So fraud, I won't go into the details of which fraud in case some of you are interested in frauding. But suffice it to say that at some point we had a big scare because we had a lot of fraudsters on the platform. It was an existential crisis moment for BlaBlaCar. And thanks to a lot of work, but in particular AI, we managed to reduce that by 90% in a pretty short amount of time. So the tool is named Cerberus. And yeah, what's fantastic here is that AI really managed to scale up. So we have a super high precision, a very good recall. And in the process, we managed to reduce the complexity of the system, moving from many, many business rules to a handful of models that we can manage properly. But that's not why we're here today. So I have a few tongue twisters in the slides. So this one's the first one, scale a handful, scale by the handful. So what does it mean? The few projects you've seen is really you want to scale a handful of projects. There are million euros projects. They can save a lot of money to your company. They can face off existential crisis. But there will be only a few of them, like 5, 10, you name it, probably not 100. Each of them require having a dedicated setup with an engineering team, a data team, a product team. It's a full project. It requires like dozens of people to be put in front of the eventual users. So that's cool, but I guess most of you are not here for that. The other is scale by the handful. So it's how do you give people access to technology so that they can scale their own work themselves. And that's a very different game. We are talking about the long tail of all the small workflows you have internally for yourself. These are probably projects that saves individually a few thousands of euros or a few dozens of thousands of euros. So nothing you would want to put a full engineering team behind because the ROI would be disastrous. Today we'll be talking about that. So the use case we have today for you is localization. How do you scale localization? Localization, Simon will talk more about that, but essentially that's one of these projects where if I were to say, hey, we'll try to shoot for 100% automation and say, hey, here is a team of like 3, 4 people, essentially the ROI is negative. It doesn't make sense. So we'll go into, with Simon, we'll go into explaining what localization is and how we did it.
Thank you. I'll start from the beginning if anyone doesn't know much about localization. The workflow is pretty basic. We get translation requests through our usual tools like Jira. We treat the request, we make sure all the requirements are fulfilled, we have the right context, language sets, all that. We also check the content for localizability. And then we take that content and put it into a job, which we send to one of our vendors through a tool we use. Then it takes time for translation, then it takes time for review, and then it gets delivered back to us, and then we implement it. On top of that, there's of course admin and billing tasks. There's a back and forth of emails, context requests, resourcing, anything. That's the workflow, but it scales a bit because we do 18 languages, so that's a lot of people. You said I take care of it all, but not quite. I rely on a big external network of 75-ish linguists spanning 2 vendors. So again, that's a lot of intricacies and complexities, since none of them are at the office. So sometimes it gets a bit stressful. Our typical turnaround time is 2 days for most content, so we try to get it to market pretty fast. The budget is not huge, but since we don't always know how much content is going to be coming down the pipeline, we try to stay on top of it as nicely as possible. In terms of word count, we do 200,000 to 300,000 words per year. Of course, the language, it depends for each project on language sets, but in terms of source content, that's what we do. And the last, most important, I would say, criteria is quality. Since it's directly the voice of BlaBlaCar across all of our regions and markets, we want to make sure that's not something we can compromise on. To me, it looks a bit like this, feels a bit like this. I mean, we have nice enough processes, and we cultivate strong relationships with our external stakeholders, but sometimes it feels a bit like herding cats. It's a lot of emails, a lot of Slack, lots of everything, really. Good days.
Yep. So one thing that was interesting, it was for that project, at some point I got thinking about, okay, we have this great project, €1,000,000 savings. I know there's a bucket, like a truckload of long-tail projects. Now, what tools would Simon need to perform his task 50% more efficiently, 25% more efficiently? And so we have something at BlaBlaCar that's called the coding night. That's one night or one day and a night where you can build all kind of crazy projects. Now, I'd like you to guess how we solved it. So I'm giving you question. So what's the most used productivity tool ever? Like a tool everyone is using in every company.
Word.
Word. You got, someone said Notion, so there must be someone pretty young.
Excel.
Excel. Okay, so we got our winner. Spreadsheets. Spreadsheets, so that's something you can never kill. That's my opinion. Many people have tried. So it was, when I was thinking about, okay, what tool should we give, I was really intent on finding something where Simon can be autonomous. I didn't want something that would feel too complex, where he would need to reach out to me every time he had to do a tweak. I wanted something with a pretty simple UI. Well, so obviously spreadsheets don't scale, I know. How many data people in the room? Okay, so you hate spreadsheets, right? So I know they don't scale. But what about it's a one-person project? So it doesn't need to scale, maybe. So what we did was build that spreadsheet. Essentially, it leveraged LLM in the backend, and you have a function that you can call in the spreadsheet, which brings you the LLM. And so that's what Simon used next. I will explain to you how we got to that. But the Code Ignite was instrumental in dedicating a bit of time, building a tool, and then like seeing who would use it. Yep.
So he made it, and I use it. A year ago, I was so I've used machine translation before, neural translation. It works for some stuff, it doesn't for others. LLM translation is a bit different. So far, it's been getting better and better, and it's only going to be, perfect in 6 months, basically. But last year, I started testing it, and it was just chatbots at the time, so obviously that was a bit tricky. I mean, it worked fine. The quality was pretty good, especially compared to classic machine translation, but it was ridiculously manual, so I couldn't, when you get like 20 articles to translate for the help center into 12 languages, it takes you a half day to do this, so yeah, you get some savings, but not quite, actually. So what he made is actually changing everything because of the scalability. So this is how it looks. It's really sexy. There's 3 columns. Top left one is context. Context the user, so other members of my team using the tool, context that they input about the whole project. Then the second column is all the content that needs to be translated, so segmented by titles, buttons, paragraphs, subtitles, etc. And then the third one holds the actual prompt. So in sort of details, it looks like this. That's a normal Gemini translation prompt with all its, you all know prompts. The couple of kind of cute things is that it calls other cells instead of having everything in the same place, like a glossary or that context cell, which is pretty cool because you can edit it independently. It's more malleable and less risky. So you just drag down the function, and it's going to translate everything that's next to it. And it takes, 1 to 4 seconds. And then you can just get that content and get it reviewed by humans. So it's super simple. Sometimes it takes up to 10 seconds, and it's super frustrating because that's long. But you know that. And we're already getting pretty good results for this. For all the content we're handling through this system, well, it gets done 50% faster. We pretty much removed the translation step and took our translators and put them on the review step. In terms of savings, we're not doing all content types yet. Of course, that's the goal. But for just the small subsets we're doing, we're seeing a 25% cost savings overall in our localization budget. Additionally, we removed an entire step from the process. I mean, that means less emails, less problems of, resourcing, people not getting access to our tools, anything from that brick of the project. And then it's minus 10%. I don't have the latest figure, but it's less stress because we don't have to rely so much on I mean, you can just get it done by yourself in front of yourself on your PC, which is kind of cool. I've been in localization 12 years. When you don't speak 18 languages, you always have that stress of not knowing how good the quality is going to be. You don't know, like we have translation pools of, I don't know, 3 to 5 people. You don't always know who's going to be available, how it's going to work. So removing that step and keeping it internal is a really good deal. I'll separate it into 3 steps. First, we experimented. I mean, everybody's going to say this today. Start small and iterate. So we started with the content that came to us. Localization, you get translation requests that are very recurring, like product content, and then you get stuff that's really ad hoc, depending on like changing priorities of the company, things like that. So we started with user research surveys because it's small content, it's pretty simple, not no crazy grammars, things like that. For a couple languages, and then on top of that I put a quick feedback loop with my linguists so that they could, basically I trained them on the type of feedback that I could use to improve the translation prompt so that we could inject it directly and do it over and over, and we saw improved results really fast thanks to their feedback. So then I made a prompt that basically update the translation prompt based on the feedback that I get from the linguists. Soon I'll make a prompt to just do that for me. Then, since that was working, I figured we can scale it up, we can move up a bit. So I switched to SEO content. It's kind of a new vertical. It used to be handled in a different place in our company. Now it's for us. It's more languages and it's larger volumes. So I had to be more on the ball with this. We added glossary integration, so another cell in the spreadsheet for all our glossarized content to make sure it's properly translated. And I changed a bit the feedback format from the translators so it would be easier to inject. And lastly, I did this kind of late, but I added few shots prompting to the translation, and that really changed most things. The quality skyrocketed after this. That's pretty much where I am now. Step 3 is what I'm doing. Our biggest content in terms of volume and importance, I would say, is our product content. So it's 18 languages. It's a few hundreds of words every week, and it's every week. There's no way around it. It's also trickier to translate. It's highly context dependent. For instance, a button can be a verb in English, and it can be a noun in English. And if you're not a person, it's hard to know. So we have to. We're adding another section for context on the specific segment to let the machine understand that better, and we're getting it's getting good. I also adapted our workflow with our vendors because we effectively removed a step in the workflow, had to negotiate new rates, and make sure the whole system works to call our lead translators, because we have lead translators and like review translators. Now it's our lead translators that do this part.
Yep. So thanks, Simon. Right. So I'll wrap it up. We have only a few slides left, and then time for Q&A. But in terms of learning and next steps for us, what's interesting is I have another tongue twister. So scaling unscalably and unscalably scaling. What does that mean? There's really one part which is there are some projects that you want to scale because the volume you'll get through that project is super large. You have AI in search, that's zillions of requests per day. You have AI for fraud, that's lots of volume, incoming volume as well, depending on the size of your community, et cetera, et cetera. These, there's no chance in scaling how you scale. Meaning like being better at operating the project or trying to platform everything, productize everything, doesn't make sense. We'll get one AI in search, we'll get one AI for fraud, we'll get one AI for content moderation, that's it. So it scales, but the way you scale it doesn't scale, and that's okay. Unscalably scaling is the opposite. So it means I have 800 people like Simon in the company. Each of them has their own workflow. Scaling all of their work as like a bucket of 800 projects, infeasible. unless you give them power to do it. So you give them a simple tool that they can use and play with themselves. In everything that Simon presented, he maybe asked me like 2 questions of, hey, I have came up with that spreadsheet, can you take a look? I took a look, made some feedback, and that was it. But I never had to do things myself for Simon. It was fully autonomous. So obviously that spreadsheet doesn't scale itself, because if Simon all of a sudden has to translate like 1,000 words per hour, obviously that doesn't work. But we wouldn't have built it that way. So for every little workflow that we all have, like having a simple UI, a simple tool that you can use, scales. It just you can't put too much volume in it. So that's the last slide, and then you'll be able to ask questions. Some do's and don'ts. The do's, you hear most of them today, so I won't spend time on them. The don'ts, and they echo some of the remark that Tristan made in the opening keynote, but essentially, don't theorize, test. It's much, much better. The beauty of generative AI is that it brought down the cost of a prototype to nearly 0. So you can prototype as much as you want, and everyone can do it. Don't think you've missed the train, because in the AI world, there's a train leaving every hour anyway. So if you missed the one from last week, no problem. There is one starting off tomorrow morning. So really, it's important. It's not because you've seen other people do things. It's not because you think you've fallen behind that you are. Just like step in the bandwagon and do it. You'll do it. The last part is don't panic because of FOMO. How many of you check LinkedIn and think, oh shit, I know nothing about AI? So come on. Okay. So be tranquil. People posting on LinkedIn, their job is to post on LinkedIn, correct? Your job is to be product managers, data people, and to improve your productivity. You can do it, so don't worry about what people put on LinkedIn. Come to conferences like these, have workshops with your peers, it will be much more efficient. And one last resource that I very, very highly recommend, essentially, so don't tell everyone, but everything that you need to know about automation and machine learning, AI, so machine learning in the days, AI now, is there. So go there, check the website. It's from a company that some of you might have heard from, pretty famous. They know how to do AI, so they came up with some rules that are pretty practical, back to basics. There aren't that many of them, and if you feel that's too many, just push them in a LLM and you make an assistant to answer your question. But check it out, it's super powerful. Thanks, everyone.